Composition is a vital element that needs to be understood in order to improve your landscape photography. It took me about 3 to 4 years to fully understand why composition is so important and how I can use it to improve my landscape photography. So in this video, I'm going to go through some different composition tips that I've learned along the way that has helped me improve my landscape photography exponentially. Today I am shooting in a place called the Rainforest Gallery. Conditions today are perfect for this, very overcast, so that means we're not going to be getting much contrast in the photos, which means you can kind of get that dreamy aesthetic. That's a lot better for woodland photography. You don't want harsh light coming through the forest because that creates a lot of contrast. And usually with woodland photography, the dreamy aesthetic works best. We've also had quite a bit of rain in the past couple of days, so everything is very lush, very green, lots of water running through the stream, which is one of the main reasons why I'm here. Today I'll be talking to you guys about 6 or 7 tips and a couple of bonus woodland photography specific tips to do with composition and how you can use it to improve your photography. And the great thing about these tips are that if you are shooting on your phone or a point and shoot camera, you can still utilize this. And so in that way, you can improve your photography with your phone. I actually think I've found my first composition, which is just down by this water stream. So I've got to get my water shoes on and then I'm going to head down there. So this is a beautiful first composition. Got this free-flowing stream with some rocks, with the moss. This would definitely work. So my first tip would be to get your camera out of your bag and just have it off the tripod and just experiment. Have a look around with the camera and try and find the right composition. This makes it a whole lot easier to basically set up your tripod in the right position. And that way, you're not looking for the composition with your tripod, because tripods can be kind of cumbersome and annoying to move around a lot, especially in a uneven landscape like this, where under here there's a lot of different rocks and stuff like that. It's hard to get your tripod set up. There's just a lot of fidgeting. So you want to look for the composition first, and once you've found the composition, then set up your tripod. And that way, there's also less worry about this falling in. I'm just recording on my Sony here, but you can see what I'm doing. I'm just getting down low, getting up high. I'm shooting this on my 16-35, and I definitely recommend for shots like this to be using something a lot wider, like the 16-35. And throughout the video, I'll go through what I'm looking at whenever I'm doing these movements with my camera. My next tip is to use a tripod. Now, I know that not everyone likes tripods. People find them slow, annoying, and cumbersome. And to be honest, I understand that. For me though, I've been using tripods for about 3 or 4 years now, like for every single shot, and I've gotten used to it. Tripods are really good to fine-tune your composition. And as we're gonna go through later on, minute movements of the camera can make a massive change to your photo. And you wanna basically lock down your composition so that the camera isn't moving around and changing the composition. Another tip for shooting in scenarios like this, where you're shooting in a creek, water, anything dangerous to your camera or to yourself, definitely set up the tripod first, get it in the position you want to get it in, get it locked down, and then go and get your camera. That way, you're not carrying your camera through water without a place to put it down. This tripod is very light, very easy to set up, and very quick to set up. I have another tripod which is heavy, better for landscape, oceanscape, stuff like that. But this is really nice to set up in a stream because it's quick, it's easy, it's light. And when it's lighter, it's easier for me to catch my fall if I do fall over. So what I'll do here is I'll get down to the level of the tripod head. That way I can see what the camera will be seeing. Kind of feel like I want this a little bit higher. So I'll get it as close as I can to what I want, and then I'll go and get my camera and put my camera on. It makes it a bit slower, but when I was shooting in the Great Alt Waves, it was a lifesaver, for sure. The amount of times that I fell over, it would have been so bad if I hadn't done that. So I changed up my composition just a little bit. I moved it back, wanted to get it higher, and I'll go through why I wanted to do that. But first of all, I'm just gonna chuck on a couple of filters. Got my CPL. Okay, so I'm recording on my Sony now. I've got my CPL on it here. I'm gonna spin it and I'll show you what the CPL does for the photo. So right now it's not in use. And when I spin it, you can see how it takes all the glare off around here and on the rocks all throughout the image. It lets you see under the water. This is so important because you can't get that effect in editing. You can't remove glare off water in post-processing. I'm also going to chuck on my 3-stop, and this will remove 3 stops of light from the photo, which is all we need at the moment because it's really, really quite gloomy, quite dark, and I might actually end up removing that later on. I'm going to take you through my composition a little bit. My main subject here is the stream running through around this rock, but this rock in itself is also a subject for me. One thing I noticed when I was shooting down low is how this rock was blocking the stream further up here, and I really want that separation from this rock to the stream up there. It's very important, it's vital for this photo to work. So that's why I brought my camera further up. You can see how this stream just leads the eye through the photo. I also really like the contrast of the green and the black and the silver of the water. Honestly, this photo has just come together really, really nicely. Another reason why it's a good idea to use a tripod, especially in a situation like this, is for manually focusing. A lot of the time in landscapes and in woodland, there's too much for the camera to actually work out what it needs to focus on automatically. So often you need to set your focus yourself. So before I take an image, I just do the final checks. And so my final checks consist of, for woodland photography, checking that there's no sky in the image, because that creates a distracting hotspot. But I'm also going to be checking around the corners of the image, around the sides of the image, to make sure that there's no ferns, dead branches, dead bushes creeping into the frame that can distract the viewer. But also, especially when I'm shooting a scene like this, I want to make sure that there's no dead bushes or ferns that are really dark brown, that is basically overpowering the contrast of the image. But I'm really happy with how this image looks, so I'm going to take this now. What I'm gonna do is just go for a little explore down here a little bit and have a look at what other falls we have down here. All this is really promising. There's just like fall after fall after fall. There's a lot of really beautiful frames here. And I could stay here all day and shoot. And you know what? I am so excited for that. Okay, so I'm moving on to a bit further down the stream to where I saw those other compositions. And right now, conditions are so perfect. The sky's like a massive softbox because it's so overcast, and it's just creating for some really well exposed, dreamy shots. And I'm not having that much trouble with getting all the entire frame exposed properly in one shot, which works really well, because having to bracket long exposures is a little bit annoying. And as I get further down into this creek, the canopy gets thicker. So one, that helps me because it blocks out more of the sky, and as we've learnt, sky is a big distraction and you want to try and avoid having sky in your woodland photos, and it creates a more balanced shot. So I'm going to try and find my first composition here and see, even just by walking down here, I notice a lot. One thing that I know that I'm going to love to use as a component in this shot, in one of these, is this fern here. This is really good for composition because it frames that fall there really, really nicely, and I love that. So I'm definitely going to use that in a shot, but I think that's going to be a little bit higher up. Okay, so I've got my camera set up here, but I don't think this composition works, and I'm going to take you through why I don't think it works. My main subject for this image is this waterfall, okay? And something we've learned today is to not let things creep into your main subject. And this fern is creeping into my main subject. You can see how it blocks part of the falls. This also here, this is too close to the edge of my frame. And a lot of it is actually getting cut out, which isn't good either. If you're shooting something, you want the entire element to be in your shot. So I think what I'm gonna have to do is move my camera a bit further up, backwards, and try and get it lined up. Truth is that you can, most of the time, eliminate these distractions without actually removing them, without physically moving the distraction. Because when you're shooting in nature, it's often best practice to not actually move anything. How you can do that is with intentional camera movement. And so my camera currently is over here. I'm gonna film a bit where I'll walk it back and to the side, and then you can see how suddenly I'm over here and my subject is in clear view and is not being obstructed by any fern. Just wanted to jump in here and just say that I realize intentional camera movement, or ICM, is something completely different to what I'm describing here. To be clear, I mean to be very intentional about where you put your camera. To experiment with your camera positioning by moving in all directions to try to find a position that works. So you can see which fern I'm talking about. I'm talking about this one here. So I'm going to move my camera back. You can see how that lifts the composition and lowers the fern underneath the fall. And then from here, I'm going to move back and to the side. And then all of a sudden, That fern is not creeping into my frame, and I've got this entire fern in the frame as well. I really like how that's turned out. I'm also seeing a vertical shot here. Okay, I really like how that shot is coming out. I think it's gonna look really nice with my 24-70 as well though. So I think I'm gonna go get my bag. I've got a lot of dry land here so I can put my bag down here. But I will take you through this composition as well. This shot here, a lot of it is to do with natural framing, and there's a lot of that here. For one, this fern just here acts as a really nice natural frame, but also this tree here acts as a really nice natural frame as well. You can see how it frames the fall. The rocks on either side of the fall here helps with that framing as well. Really, really nice shot. I really like it, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab this shot and then I'll see how it looks on my 24-70. Okay, I brought it down a little bit just to include more of this fall here, because I was cutting that out and I don't want to cut that out. I like the white water of it. It looks nice. Okay, that shot I really, really like. What I want to try though is bring my camera down a little bit more. In this photo, there is a big pool of brown where the first main waterfall is. And I actually do like that. I think it adds an element to the photo that's really nice. But I also want to get a shot without it. So in order to do that, I'm gonna get my camera and I'm gonna bring it down to here. And you can see how that removes a lot of that brown pool. And I'm not against that brown pool. I think it worked really nicely for that shot, but I also want to get a shot without it. What I'm looking at here as well though is this rock here, this one here. If I bring it over this way, you can see it creeps onto the main stream quite a bit. So I'm going to bring my camera all the way over here. I might actually bring it a bit wider. Now I've got that entire stream. If I come back over here, you can see how it intrudes and then how it creates that separation. Also, what I like about this composition is there's no sky. So if I bring it up, there's sky. But down here, that's all just green fern. What's nice about this image is that it's all very exposed evenly. I don't need to worry about bracketing this shot. I'll take you through this image here. So there's three main elements of this image. First, we've got the stream here, which is really nice. And then it leads the eye up to, all the way up here, and then up to the main stream. Perfect example of a good leading line. It takes the viewer's eye all throughout the image and it works really nicely. Now the reason why I'm making it wider is for this main stream here. You can see when I was like that, it was it's too close to the edge. So that's why you've got to check the sides of your image. Nothing intruding on the stream. I don't love how this stream curls off into the side of the frame. So it's kind of just a balancing act. I reckon that's pretty nice. A tip for shooting images like this is to have it so that you have a closed aperture, because then you've got more depth of field in the image, and that way it'll be easier to focus and get more in focus. Okay, so this is my composition with my 24-70. This composition I am so fond of. It works really nicely. I'll talk a bit about my composition. I'll start with the rule of thirds. First off, in this first third, I've got this tree here helping to frame the image quite nicely. It's framing the background, but also subconsciously helps the viewer's eye to this part of the image as well. And then the second third, the middle third, I've got up here, part of the background, and then the main subject, which is in the center of my frame. Good to keep the main subject in the center of the frame when you're doing close-up shots like this. Then down here, I've got another stream. I was careful not to block out that part of the stream because I think it adds a lot to the image. I actually really like the selective focus of that part of the stream being out of focus and then this part of the stream being in focus. And then up here I've got the rock. These two rocks here and here, they help to frame the main subject, as I keep saying, and the fern up here. An important part of photography is natural frames, landscape photography, woodland photography, that kind of stuff, because it helps the viewer understand what the image is of. And it might be subconscious, the viewer might not even know, but it helps with that. I'm going to try it in a landscape as well. Okay, so this composition here, first off, I really like the leading line of the creek. The fern here adds a lot compositionally, and the placement of the waterfall is also very purposeful. This image uses leading lines, natural framing. Now, the rule of thirds here, so we've got the land here, which is 1/3. To the corner of it, we've got the main subject here, and then the stream. On the corner of this third, we've got half of the fern and then the land over here as well. It's important to think about rule of thirds in this way. When you're shooting in landscape, especially for this kind of shot, you can place your main subject off a bit. And of course, it is all very subjective. This is just what my thought process when I'm taking a shot like this is. And it obviously changes from location to location, composition to composition. Different things work, different things don't for different locations. But for a close-up vertical shot like I was shooting before, it was best to place my subject in the middle. But when I'm shooting a landscape shot, because it's wider, the frames are wider, I have more space to work with. And yeah, you could place it in there, and actually that looks quite nice, but a lot of this is dead space, and I don't want that. I want the interest all throughout the image, which is those rocks. I don't want those dead leaves that were over there. So that's the composition. I think it works really nicely. I'll just bring it down a little bit, just to block out some of that sky. Just spin my polarizer a little bit. I took a couple more photos with my 24-70 while I was there. I really like how these came out. that came out really nicely, and that's that composition done. So I think I can move on from here further on down the stream. Okay, even this looks quite nice. This is a good example of a lot of different elements making for like a difficult shot to compose. The main elements that I'm looking at here is this rock, this stream coming down here, the fern, and the main stream up there. I want to get a shot that gets all of that in shot without anything being blocked. So if I bring it over this way, you can see how that stream is in view, but this small stream here isn't in view. So that's difficult. Also, when I bring it over here, the stream up there kind of gets blocked by the fern. For this, you want to try and bring it up. And that way you can see that the stream becomes in view again. Thing is that I'm not sure that my tripod can actually get that high. I mean, it's worth a shot. It's just a bit of a complicated composition, but that's all right. I'm gonna need to change my 16 to 35 as well. I've just been playing around with the composition, just with my tripod, trying to get into a position that might work. But I just cannot get it to work. My tripod's just not tall enough to bring it high enough to actually make it so that the stream doesn't get cut off. If I block out the stream entirely and you can't tell that there's a stream there, that kind of works. I was gonna say it just doesn't work, but maybe it will. So you want to do your best not to block out parts of the subject, but if you can block it out entirely and make it seem like there's nothing there, that works as well. I think it's going to look better as a vertical, maybe at this height here. I'm going to set it up like that. Setting up a tripod in this kind of situation just takes a lot of playing around with until you get it. If you're persistent enough, usually you can get it in the right position. I think that works. Yeah, that works. I think that's going to work really nicely for vertical. So now that I've got that set up, I'll be very careful not to punch it. I'm going to go grab my camera. Ah! Now, obviously, once I put my camera on here, it adds a weight to it. So you want to just take it very slow when you're adding weight to the tripod when it's this unsteady. But I think that's all right. It doesn't seem to be moving. Components of this image. Got the fern up here. Adds another beautiful element to the shot. Got the main fall that I've been shooting all day here. This rock here, I like how that's so curved and it blocks out the stream that's over there, so that's good. There's nothing that's really obscuring any of the subjects. We've got nice natural framing from the fern, from the rocks, from the tree. It all looks great, but I think that's my composition right here. I think that works quite nicely. Looking at the shot with hindsight, I don't think it works as well as I first thought. The whole subject, which is the streams and the rocks around it, are all tucked too much to the right side of the image. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to move further downstream, just to the next pool, because that's where I saw the next composition. And this is how it often goes, just literally going from composition to composition. A lot of the time, I actually get to a location and I take my camera off the tripod and I just have a hunt around for some different compositions. Sometimes I do it with this if I'm recording. And then I will basically just take them one at a time. It takes a long time. I started this shoot at about 8 o'clock. It's now almost 1 o'clock. And the conditions are still like perfect. This composition that I've got framed up now is actually one that I was trying to get further up, but it works better this way here. I've got more separation, the layering is better, it lines up better. Alrighty, this shot here, lots of nice layering for this shot. But the first stream here, here, and then got the next one, then the next one, then the one in the far distance. It would be unwise for me to bring the camera further down. If I did, there would be less separation for the falls. I'll film it on my phone. So I bring it down further, you can see how there's less separation from this first fall to the fall after that. And I think the separation is important for this shot. Got my composition here, just flawless, beautiful, beautiful shot. I'll go through what I'm looking at here. There's different elements to this shot, as always. My main subject is in the middle of my frame. When I'm shooting vertical, I like to do it that way. But in the foreground, I've got some of the stream here. I don't want to zoom up too much because we've got a lot of that highlight up here and I want to block that out. Got some nice natural framing from the rocks on either side. I was originally going to set up here, but you can see how this rock blocks out part of the stream. I can lift it up, but then part of this stream was still blocked by this rock here. So that's why I moved it across here. And that way I've got that stream, that first stream there behind that rock, and then that second stream both clearly in view. I'm gonna get one in landscape and one in vertical. And then after that, I've got one more shot that I wanna get, and then I'm done for the creek. I brought the camera down, facing down a bit, just to create more balance so that the subject is higher up in the image. It just felt too straight on, too square. Out of these two photos, I think I prefer the vertical photo because it's a more minimal composition with less elements, meaning that my subject, the wood in the stream, becomes more of a prominent element. This is the composition that I'm seeing here. My lens is wider than this one, so it'll work better. But around about here, I've got some really nice layering from the stream. Got this nice fern, hopefully I can get that in shot. If I can't, I'll just move back further so that I can, and hopefully I'll be able to get that in. Okay, this next composition. I'll start with what I don't like about this shot. The clutter. There's a lot in the frame, and I think that creates a bit of confusion. We've also got some of this light that's coming down because the sky is literally right there, which is not ideal, but I can put my hand over it and it goes away. What I do like about the shot is my favorite fern, of course. It's always the fern. And then the layering of the waterfall, the different streams. I do wish I could bring it up a little bit more because then that would help with some of the separation. But of course this fern here is a distraction, and then also my tripod is just not tall enough and I don't really feel like climbing amongst the trees to get a photo. So I'm gonna get this shot. This is the spot to go. This is the spot for me to shoot at. I'm gonna set up my tripod there, get that shot. I've just pulled a muscle in my leg and it's really sore. I fell over off camera and it's, oh. Hopefully I'll be all right to walk after this. All right, so for about 5 minutes I've been trying to compose this image and get the tripod set up in the right spot, but I'm having no luck. I don't think it's gonna work. My next composition is quite an intimate one. It's just of these 1, 2, 3 streams. The stream comes down and then separates into 3 main streams. I've also got this fern stump helping to frame the image. Just a little bit of corner interest. I don't mind that it's creeping into the shot. It's not distracting. Just helps to frame the main subject. It's just very simple, and I like those simple shots sometimes. Can't see any of the streams in the background. Just the main subject, very simple. So I'm gonna get the shot, and hopefully this will be one of the last shots that I get. I'm gonna get a couple of shots with my 24-70 that I've just switched to. It's of this intimate scene again, blocking out the stream that's over here. So it's just these 2 main streams of the subject. I really like the green in the background, looks really nice. Alright, so I got some woodland shots, just quickly firing them off, not really setting up my tripod or anything. I'm gonna finish up this hike, which is literally like 400 meters long, and then I'm gonna head back to the car and finish up. I just want to jump in here and thank you all if you've made it this far into the video. This video has been a huge edit. It's been so long. And I would really appreciate it if you made it to the end. I'll just go through the different tips that I have and summarize the video basically. But yeah, if you have made it this far, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and happy 2025. You. I think that's about gonna do it today. In a moment I'll summarize my points and yeah, we'll finish up. Honestly, I can't speak highly enough of this place. Rainforest Gallery in Victoria. So gorgeous, so beautiful, composition after composition, and it was honestly a little bit overwhelming. But I think it's high time I finish up this video because I've got a lot of footage already, and it's too much. But you can never have too much. Might have to split this video up, I don't know. I'm going to summarize my points from that I have mentioned throughout this video, because yeah, I was planning on showing all the points one at a time, going through them one at a time, but that it just didn't work like that. So my first point was use a tripod. My notes say if you can and if you don't mind using one. I know they can be cumbersome and annoying to set up, but tripods help to hold your composition and keeps your camera steady. When tiny movements can affect your composition a lot, this is vital. It also helps when manually focusing, which is so often needed in woodlands and landscapes. It also just keeps your hands free. And especially when you're shooting in dangerous situations where I was there was at one point I think I almost dislocated my knee because I tripped over in a really bad way. Yeah, my physio is going to be so angry with me. My second point was rule of thirds. Placing the subject correctly in your frame and using the thirds to divide up your frame. I think a lot of people know about that, and there's a lot of information online on that if you want to learn more about that one. The third one was being aware of distractions in your frame. Things creeping into your frame, so maybe a stick, a fern, bright contrasting colours. The green black was really nice, but a lot of the time contrasting colours can be the dead brown ferns and the green. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. It's also high contrasting light that really gets in the way, and that's why I shot today, which is a very overcast day. How small camera movements make a difference creating separation. Separation is quite difficult to get in photography sometimes. A good way to get some separation with woodland photography especially is when there's fog. So if you ever notice there's fog in a local woodland, probably going to be really nice to shoot at. So do you need to move your camera up? Do you need to move your camera down, left to the right? And leading lines, making sure the eye doesn't get led out of the frame. Using different subjects to create a leading line. It doesn't have to be a unbroken line, it can be broken lines. So if there's maybe street lights or something that go in a methodical patterned order, that could be a leading line. Creek could be a leading line. Anything like that that leads the eye through the image is a leading line, and they're very nice to use. One of my favorites is natural frames. Spoke a lot about that today. Nature frames made by ferns, trees and other natural elements. So these could be rocks, ferns, trees, anything really, branches, but it's natural. Okay, it's not a cropping. For the tip for woodland photography, keeping the sky out of your woodland photos due to distracting elements. So the sky can create a hotspot in your photo. That's about it. I really hope this video has taught you a thing or two. It was an absolute blast to make, but I am glad I finished up now because it was getting quite long. And I do apologize if this video is extremely long. But if you've made it this far, thank you so much, because I actually would be quite surprised if people have watched this all the way through. Yeah, I think that's going to do it for today. Thank you all so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do consider subscribing. And yeah, I'll see you on the next one.